TVKO. And now one other editorial note on the build-up to the fight. Just moments before we began taping yesterday, we were informed that if we wanted Trinidad to sit through the interview, I could not ask him about recent media reports in Puerto Rico regarding a lengthy extramarital affair that Tito had with a woman who is now pregnant with a baby that she says is fathered by Felix Trinidad. There's nothing unusual about that in the boxing world, but it is unusual in the life of Felix Trinidad, who has labored to project an image of cleanliness and propriety to his fans, and it's been a part of his appeal there. So, Larry Merchant, how do you see that particular element of the story as it figures into Trinidad's preparation for another big fight?
Well, it might be a serious distraction. Who knows what's going on between him and his wife? Or it might turn out to be an alibi if he should lose. Obviously, it's not something new, but it is coming at a time that can't do the fighter any good. And of course, Bernard Hopkins is trying to capitalize it. He's seen it as an opportunity to fend off all of those inquiries about the flag incident. You ask him if he's going to throw his jab, he says, yeah, and by the way, I never had a child out of wedlock. You ask him if this is the most important fight he's ever fought, and he says, it sure is, and by the way, I never had a child out of wedlock. So at the very least, it's probably been a help for Hopkins in what happens in the week running up to the fight.
Incidentally, Emmanuel Stewart points out that that war cap, baseball cap that Bernard Hopkins is wearing, is the same cap that Marvelous Marvin Hagler wore in the days before his huge fight with Tommy Hearns back in the middle 80s. So Hopkins trying to project a little of the tough man Hagler image. Now let's turn our attention to the main event tonight. Marco Antonio Barrera back in the ring for the first time since his memorable destruction earlier this year of the celebrated Prince Naseem Hamed. Larry Merchant, what about the aftermath of this vault back to superstardom for Barrera?
Well, for one thing, we haven't seen or heard much from the Princeling lately, have we? Or maybe he was fleeing across the treetops in the movie Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. Parenthetically, he is going to be fighting on HBO in November. Right now, they're digging through every cemetery in Europe trying to find an appropriate opponent for him. But back to Barrera. That was as much a popular defeat as it was a popular victory, because fans on both sides of the border wanted to see the brash Brit thrown off his magic carpet. And the way that Barrera did it, with such a magnificent display of controlled aggression, has made him the biggest little man in boxing and a giant in Mexico. And now all he's got to do is do it again and again and again, because that's where the expectations are when you do something like that.
Well, indeed, that magnificent display of controlled aggression, as you called it, conspired Emmanuel Stewart to totally negate the image of the Mexican fighter as an iron-chinned, hard-punching brawler. And Barrera has been that kind of fighter at previous times in his career. So let's take a look at how Barrera did what he did against the guy you were training that night, Prince Naseem Hamed. And the question I want to get to is, will he fight this style again tonight, or will he go back to what we've seen before?
Well, in this particular fight, you can see Barrera came in very well prepared, basically fundamentally very sound, whereas Hamed's hands were in a bad position. His whole body position was very bad, and Barrera took advantage of that. Simple, basic punches.
And he never overcommitted, never got himself into a vulnerable position where Hamed could change the fight with one big punch. That was the big change from what we've seen of Barrera in the past, when he was an attacking, body-destroying left hooker. Which fighter will we see tonight?
Well, the one thing that we have all learned about Barrera, in recent years, he's been one of the most versatile and adjustable fighters that I have saw. He's fought so many different styles, but he finds a way to win a fight. And regardless of what he does tonight, you can be sure he's going to make an adjustment. But I believe that he's going to be aggressive tonight. I don't think he's going to go back to fighting the technical fight that he fought when he fought Hamed.
All right, let's take a look at the tail of the tape now for Marco Antonio Barrera against Enrique Sanchez, two featherweights. When the weight limit is 126, you can see that Barrera, after 12 years as a pro, is still only 27 years old. 1-inch height advantage for Sanchez, 1-inch reach advantage on the other hand for Barrera. Sanchez weighed in 1 pound under the limit tonight unofficially. Barrera's 3 pounds heavier, 132 to 129. Sanchez has a history of both giving and receiving headbutts. Harold Letterman, what's the significance of that for Barrera?
Okay, Jim, what it means is that Marco Antonio Barrera has to get off to a big early lead because Enrique Sanchez in his last fight was involved in a decision that was, caused by an accidental headbutt. So Marco Antonio Barrera must get off early and fast because after 4 rounds on a cut caused by an accidental headbutt, we go to the scorecards to determine a winner. Jim.
All right, you saw the rules. Now here's a look at Sanchez as he enters the ring.
Jim, you may remember that Sanchez fought on the undercard of that memorable Barrera-Morales fight a year and a half ago. He says that after the fight, he went up and sat in the balcony, and when the result was announced, if he could have found something to throw, he would have thrown something down at the ring just as all the other fans were doing.
Indeed, he was rooting for Barrera despite the fact that they were both reared in Mexico City. He beat Barrera in their last fight as amateurs, and in the 12 years since, it was Marco Antonio Barrera who went on to become a professional star, while Sanchez, by his description, got a slow start in his career due to family problems. Here's a closer look.
You have to remember that when they fought as amateurs, there was a 2-year difference in their ages, as there is now, and that's significant when you're a teenager. He hasn't been a busy fighter, and so he has bought his own taxi and drives his own taxi around Mexico City between fights. He says that with the proceeds of this fight, he's going to buy 4 more taxis. If he wins, he'll have a fleet. Since his only loss to Nesta Garza, he was involved in 1 technical draw. All of his other fights, he won by KO.
And now, next to enter, one of the most intelligent, one of the classiest, one of the best fighters in our sport, Marco Antonio Barrera.
Barrera admits that it was hard for him to go back in training after the emotional high and the celebrating of his great victory over the Prince. It took him 3 months to come down and get back to work.
Part of the satisfaction, he said he had to work so hard and focus so much to change his style for the fight. He wasn't sure he could do it. It wound up being an artistic triumph. Here's a closer look at Barrera.
The way he puts it, the Prince is still the Prince, but now I'm the king. And that brings to mind the question of whether he'll be able to follow the great Mexican heroes, Olivares, Sanchez, and Chavez, in their halls of fame. But first, he's got to fight a Sanchez, then a rematch with Morales, and as he says, every fight with another Mexican fighter is a tough fight.
And this could be a spectacle. Let's go to ring announcer Michael Buffer for the official introductions.
Ladies and gentlemen, Forum Boxing in association with America presents the Reno Hilton, the Lawler Events Center, and your undisputed, undefeated king of beer, Budweiser, present 12 rounds of boxing for the People's Featherweight World Championship. Sanctioned by the Nevada State Athletic Commission Chairman Dr. Luther Mack. The 3 judges scoring this contest on the 10-point must system will be Bert Clements, Dwayne Ford, and Dave Moretti. And when the bell rings, your referee in charge of the action, Vic Draculich. And now, from the Lawler Events Center here in the biggest little city in the world, Reno, Nevada, ladies and gentlemen, let's get ready to rumble! Introducing first, fighting out of the blue corner, wearing blue trimmed with silver, and weighing 125 pounds. He has an outstanding professional record, 28 victories, including 21 knockouts with only 1 loss and 2 draws. From Mexico City, ladies and gentlemen, here is Enrique El Sudo de Oro Sanchez. And his opponent across the ring, fighting out of the red corner, wearing black trimmed with gold and weighing in at 126 pounds. His professional record also outstanding. 53 victories, 38 of them by knockout with only 3 losses. Not only has he fought his way to the top of this weight class, he has fought his way to the recognition as one of the best fighters in the world today. Damas y caballeros, de Ciudad de Mexico, presenting the 2-time world champion, the reigning people's featherweight champion, the baby face assassin, Marco Antonio Barrera.
Segundo jefe solamente.
Atrás tu height, okay?
Watch. Segundo jefe solamente. Segundo jefe. Oops. All right, gentlemen, you received your instructions in the dressing room. At this time, are there any questions? Any questions, Chief seconds? All right, remember, obey my commands. Protect yourselves at all times. Good luck to both of you.
The North American Free Trade Act, which promotes free trade between Mexico and the U.S. and other countries, is a one-way street in boxing, with many Mexican fighters coming across the border to fight in the U.S. And here you see 2 of the best.
The southpaw Sanchez against the conventional fighter Barrera.
Yes, one thing Barrera does a very beautiful, he counters with a jab. I guess having fought a few southpaws recently, he's learned to fight them pretty good. And most guys that fight southpaws forget to use their left jab. They depend on strictly right hands, because that's the standard in the industry. But he uses his left jab very effectively.
He waits for the southpaw to throw the right jab and counters over it with his own.
Correct. Yes, he works very well off of the southpaw's jabs when they jab. He does a lot of different things.
Sanchez lands a counter right. Barrera, in addition to the counter left jab that Emmanuel just described to you, has a sizzling left again. There he goes, countering over the top of the right. Double left hook to the body by Barrera.
And his body and balance position is unbelievable.
Just a pro.
A seasoned pro, I guess, turned pro at 50. Yep. 27 years old.
And you know, to prove the dictum that styles make fights, Barrera is so good and so adjustable that you wonder who could beat him. But in 2 fights against Junior Jones, he lost twice. Knocked out once, decision the second time. To this day, Barrera's bewildered as to how it is that he could have lost twice to Junior Jones, because he figures, I'm smart enough, I'm adjustable enough, I'd beat anyone the second time.
But that's, once again, styles. Styles make fights. Certain fighters will always give other fighters problems, much like Kenny Norton was always a problem with Muhammad Ali. And Roberto Duran. Roberto Duran had so much problems with Thomas Hearns, but nevertheless, the big guys, he fought Iran Barkley, and he just walked to them easy. But it's just a certain style of maybe rhythm or chemistry between certain guys that is effective.
Enrique Sanchez, since his last fight, fired longtime trainer Nacho Beristain, one of the better-known Mexican trainers, and has a new trainer named Antonio Jimenez. Now, you know, at this stage of your career, 12 years in as a pro, you're fighting for the first time with a new trainer. That's always an interesting adjustment.
It's a big adjustment, especially going in with a fighter like Barrera. But evidently, he felt that he had to do something different.
Well, he got butted and cut in his last fight against Carlos Contreras, and in a way, the butt prevented a loss because he was trailing at the time when it happened. And maybe he felt as though if he was losing to somebody like Contreras, he needed a change.
Well, I would say this much, regardless of who's training, I think Sanchez is fighting a very beautiful fight.
Sanchez coming out trying to make a statement with the right jab in the first round. Barrera has had his moments also. Good competitive round one of what should be an excellent fight. And in both corners where they speak Spanish, our interpreter is Ray Torres.
You got to be real lively. Make sure you come in with that jab. That jab is important. You got to throw that jab so he doesn't come in. You move to your right a little bit. You know what to do with the southpaws. Deep breaths, deep breaths. Don't let him take the initiative. You go first. You got to jab him. Don't let him come in. Make sure that
There's Barrera fighting in his relatively measured style. Left to the head, left to the body. Instructions from the corner of Sanchez was for him to go first, and he is.
This is turning out to be a very good technical fight, not a brawl, not your typical Mexican type fight, but very technical and scientific. But Barrera's balance is what's given him such a great advantage oftentimes, and he kicks punches with very minimal effort.
There was a feeling after the 2 losses to Jones that Barrera had slipped. And he came back brilliantly with his enormous performance against Morales in the fight of the year for the year 2000. Looked even better against Jesus Salud and scored the dramatic win over Hamed. He's really at his peak as a public commodity in the sport right now.
But he's also coming off certainly one of the biggest fights of his career, and sometimes there's a danger of letting down after such an effort and all the accolades that come with it.
Barrera's trying to do a very interesting thing, Manny. He wants to out-jab the southpaw.
That's very unusual because most guys very seldom use the jab, and he's actually beaten it with his left hand more so than the right. That's, once again, good balance. He can shoot a body punch and pull back before the guy can even retaliate.
Investing in these early rounds in body shots.
Yes, he's trying to shoot the left hook to the body, which is very difficult because of the angle of the body position when you're fighting a southpaw. It usually lands on the upper cage frame where it's really not that effective. He needs to shoot it more to the inside if he could. That was a good left uppercut.
And the right uppercut. Little left hook to the body, all by Barrera. Sanchez hasn't yet been able to muster the accuracy to take Barrera out of his blast. Big left hook upstairs by Marco Antonio, and he drives Sanchez into the ropes. So the rally at the end of round 2 clearly establishes the winner in that round.
Pero ¿por qué te quedaste parado? Por eso te agarró.
Why did you stand there? That's why he hit you. You're so still. You gotta move.
Es yo porque estás metiendo, manda lo que arriba.
Yes, you gotta throw lados. Over him, left and right. Come on, I want you to use that left hand. One and let it go. You gotta jab and then throw that left hand. Don't just stand there. That's why he hit you. You gotta be smart. Come on. Put your hands up and...
Here comes the exclamation point on that round. Beautiful right hand. after ducking the left hand of Sanchez. World-class stuff from a world-class fighter.
CompuBox numbers in round 2. Barrera landed 20 punches. 18 of those connects were power shots. Sanchez landing only 8. He only landed 7 in the first round. Sanchez needs to land more punches if he's going to take Barrera out of his rhythm.
That's once again, Barrera's actually doing the boxing most. He's working a lot with his jab. And even when he don't land often with the left jab, it's breaking up the right hand punch that's coming in from Sanchez. It's deflecting it midway.
Seated at ringside across from us, Oscar De La Hoya, here this evening because the former Olympic fighter, down goes Sanchez on a brilliant right hand.
Classic move when you're fighting a southpaw. A half a step when he shoots the jab and shoots your right hand. Just enough to make him lose his balance for 1 split second.
Vic Draculich wipes Sanchez's gloves, and Barrera will take a look to see how much damage has been done.
Suddenly Sanchez's head is squared up.
Barrera goes right back to boxing.
Very relaxed, very patient, very balanced, and always in great position. Should be defensive and offensive.
This is clinical. This is just a clinic. This is a destruction of a pretty good fighter by a guy who has risen to a new level in his career.
And this Sanchez is looking good himself. He's doing everything proper, except he's in there with a fantastic fighter tonight.
Now, Larry talked about the potential for letdown. The other potential is that your confidence soars and you get even better.
Well, at least went to a new level.
You know, and I think that shows in being a little less rushed, a little under more control and positive in the way you do it on balances, as we've been pointing out. Steps aside, throws one, moves out again.
He's doing so many things. He may do it out of shuffle next. It wouldn't surprise me.
That would surprise me.
Oh, boy.
That could be scored a 10-8 round under Nevada's new scoring rules.
Your hands got to be up now. Listen now. Listen. When you throw it in the low, you have to move your hands down and up. Don't leave your hands on top and throw the bottom. Yes, up and down. And make sure the jab is moving.
That obviously is a 10-8 round because of the knockdown early in the round. But in Nevada today, they're calling for more 10-8 rounds in which one fighter dominates the other fighter. So even without a knockdown, that might have been a 10-8 round for Barrera.
The new policy became critical recently when Paulie Ayala got a close victory over Bones Adams in Las Vegas, largely on the strength of a second round in which Ayala didn't knock Bones Adams down, but landed one big punch and got a 10-8 score from all 3 judges. Harold, how do you have this one so far?
Okay, Jim, 3-0, 30-26, Marco Antonio Barrera. As Larry pointed out, without question, round 3 becomes 10-8 because of the knockdown. Marco landing the cleaner, harder shots throughout the first 2 rounds. You know, Jim, sometimes you watch a fight on TV, you lose the velocity of the punch. When you watch it close at ringside like this, the judges sit in raised seats that can feel the velocity, and Marco's landed a really harder shots.
And Sanchez just landed a right hand that might have been his best punch of the fight.
Sanchez is fighting an extremely determined fight. I'm looking at the look in his eyes as if he feels that he would die if he had to win this fight.
Oh, there's a lot of want to, no question about it.
I can see the professional pride, and especially the pride from Mexico, but he's going to be dangerous all the way through this fight.
Once again, Barrera with heavier punches starts to back Sanchez up.
Barrera's fighting another one of his classic fights, the same as when he fought Morales, Salud, and he's really getting to be maybe the best balanced out fighter in boxing today. We need to seriously look at where he stands in these pound-for-pound ratings that they're coming.
Well, he ranks in almost all the pound-for-pound listings in the top 10 now. The question is, can he move into the top 5?
Well, from what I can see tonight, he's definitely on his way. I've been very impressed because the quality of guys he's been beating so impressively recently.
Well, the blood now coming out of Sanchez's mouth. You know, the top pound-for-pound fight is generally thought to be, you know, Trinidad, Mosley, Jones, De La Hoya, Hopkins, Mayweather, with Barrera falling in right behind them. But if he fights another fight or two like this, he's going to crash the top 5.
And especially he's fighting quality fighters that he's beaten too. You know, I was amazed when he fought Palmer how physically strong he has become in the last few years. Even though he was moving up from 122, he was physically stronger than a man who'd been fighting at 126 and actually physically manhandling him.
Well, what a left hook. What a left hook. And Sanchez goes down as a delayed reaction from the sensational left hook by Barrera. So perfectly thrown. So unbalanced.
Unbelievable.
That was a very smart thing that Sanchez did. He instantly realized he was hurt, and rather than expose himself to another barrage, he took a knee.
But he got another 10-8 round against him.
Well, but he survived.
Listen, do you want to continue the fight? You want me to stop it? How you feeling? You don't want to go on? All right. Yes, I want to go on. Okay. You want to go or not? I need to know. Nothing. It's all right. I'm going to give you one more round. One more round you're going to get.
There's the punch. You saw it was like a delayed parachute that opened, and you heard what was going on in the corner. They don't want to see their fighter take a really bad licking.
But Barrera's shooting a very unusual amount of left-hand punches for a right-hander to be fighting a southpaw, and it's very effective. In fact, to me, that's been the nucleus of his attack tonight. Has been the busy left hand that everything else is working off of.
It's his vision, it's his timing, it's his technical brilliance, it's his determination to make it work regardless of what might stand up against it.
I wish I could get him up to 150 pounds and throw him right in the midst of the welterweights and junior middleweights.
Wouldn't that be great?
Interesting. Yeah, Shane Mosley, Trinidad, De La Hoya, Marcus Antonio Barrera, all the same weight.
Figure into that mix, huh?
Yeah, he's just really out of place as a featherweight now. He's in a class by himself now.
So Sanchez fighting to try to stay in the fight after his cornerman told him they'd give him one more round. And Barrera just trying to continue the clinical destruction of Sanchez, which has been taking place so far. Enrique Sanchez is a former world champion. He held the 122-pound championship for 10 months in 1998 and lost it unexpectedly to Nestor Garza. So this is a world-caliber fighter that Barrera is doing this against.
Blood from the nose and mouth of Sanchez.
No.
Right hand lead that time. Landed flush. Left hand to the body by Barrera. Sanchez totally determined. Spirited effort by Sanchez to turn the tide a little bit.
Something happened earlier in this round. I saw something happen to the face of Barrera that maybe seemed like he suffered some kind of temporary injury. I noticed that he threw a left-hand punch and seemingly he flinched, and he's backed off a lot since then for a moment to regroup.
As though he hurt a hand?
Something happened, I believe. I mean, he's had to regroup for a moment.
He's all right now.
A little bit better.
He's okay. Manny, he's doing fine.
This is a terrible beating that Sanchez is absorbing, and they might stop the fight in the corner after this round.
Body and head.
Awesome display of talent. Very few wasted punches, too.
Now, he's not a guy who goes out and throws 70, 80 punches around. Doesn't have to. He makes his punches count.
As he did in the fight with Morales. And Ahmed. And salute.
There you go.
Okay, how do you feel now? You look better in this round, but you're still getting hit too much. You got to throw more punches. Come on, you got to do something. We could do it. If you don't throw punches, he's going to take all the initiative. He's going to be first. Do you understand me? You got to know what to. You got to throw punches. You got to connect hard. When you're in the center, bob and move. Bob and weave.
Let's go. Let's go.
As round 6 begins, you heard the action in Sanchez's corner. Let's see if Enrique can respond by throwing more punches. The real job is to try to land more. Because we've been talking about Barrera's offense, and for obvious reasons, but CompuBox Wizards Logan Hobson and Bob Canobio point out, what about the defense? Sanchez only landing 15% of his punches so far.
And what's beautiful about the defense of Barrera is when he blocks punches or protects himself, he does it with such little effort that he's always in position to punch back right away. He doesn't do too much excessive movement at all when he defends himself.
Of good news for Sanchez. The area above his left eye has held up. He had a super deep cut in his last fight against Carlos Contreras off a headbutt, and he had to worry coming in as to whether it would open up again.
Same move again that Barrera makes, where he lets you miss slightly with your right jab, just enough to lose your balance, and counters back with a right hand.
And you say that's the classic move against the southpaw.
Move against the southpaw. And he goes right back with his left jab after that, which most right-handers don't do when they're fighting southpaws.
Look at him counter with the left jab there. Right over the top.
That's it again. Half the step, shoot the right.
Sanchez getting to the body, but having to reach on those shots to do so. Meanwhile, Barrera steps inside to land his punches, so there's a bigger effect.
He changed up. Instead of throwing the right hand straight this time, he threw the right hand around as a hook mounting. So it's causing Sanchez confusion of trying to anticipate which way the punches are going to come. Now he's jabbing to the inside. Instead of jabbing over the shoulder, he's jabbing between his right hand now.
And there's the right hand counter again. Another combination lands for Barrera. And again, he sticks the right hand.
And back with the jab after that.
And of course, in addition to everything we're mentioning, there's the concentration level required to keep it up second after second.
Oh, left uppercut. Fight. He just acted as if he was going to jab instead, change it to a left uppercut. There it is again.
And again, the blood flows from Sanchez's nose.
A good fighter in Sanchez is simply being outclassed.
Mark your calendars for these upcoming shows. Thursday night at 8 p.m. Catch the regular season premiere of Inside the NFL, kicking off its 25th year. Immediately after at 9, stay tuned for the next edition of Real Sports with Brian Gumbel. Next Saturday night on TBKO pay-per-view finale of the middleweight unification series between Felix Trinidad and Bernard Hopkins. And a week later, Fernando Vargas takes on Shibata Flores for a vacant 154-pound world title. HBO, the heart and soul of boxing. Sports of the 20th Century returns this November with OJ, a study in black and white. And they have just stopped the fight.
I think it was a good stoppage.
Did it come out of Sanchez's corner? I was doing a promo.
Sanchez's corner. Too often we've seen a corner that was too brave. They don't want to ruin the fighter. They did the right thing.
They had made up their mind before the round had ended. I could see that they were going to stop the fight.
And they stopped the fight in the face of, you know, just to repeat what we've said all along, a brilliant, dominant, technical performance by a guy who just seems, at this relatively advanced stage of his career, to be getting better and better and better.
I don't see how they can keep him out of the top 5 of the pound for pound right now, especially when you consider the quality of opponents he's fought. Probably he and Felix Trinidad probably fought more quality guys consecutively than any of the present top fighters up there.
Man, if he goes to the top 5 in those pound-for-pound rankings, he replaces either Oscar De La Hoya or Floyd Mayweather Jr.
Well, it's going to be hard.
They're both great fighters.
It's going to be hard, but they have not fought the quality of guys consistently and been that impressively. I mean, recently.
All right, let's go to Michael Buffer and hear the particulars on Barrera's victory.
Ladies and gentlemen, referee Vic Drakulich calls a halt to the bout following encouragement from Enrique Sanchez's corner. The end comes at the end of round number 6. The winner and still the people's featherweight champion, the babyface assassin, Marco Antonio Barrera.
And now let's take a look at a CompuBox statistical profile of Barrera's great performance, landing nearly 3 times as many punches, throwing 43 more punches, 38% connect rate, pretty good, against a 15% connect rate, very low for a quality fighter like Sanchez. So offensive and defensive brilliance by Barrera reflected there. Total power punches, no, that graphic is somehow messed up because we know that Barrera landed many more than 6 total power punches. In fact, I'm guessing he landed 119. And I don't think Sanchez threw or landed 100 or 188. Somehow we messed up that last graphic, but that's okay. We were on the fly. You saw what you saw. You know what happened. Let's go to Larry Merchant in the ring.
Thank you, Jim. Congratulations, Marco Antonio. You used to have a little bit of problems with the southpaws. What did you do in changing your style to be able to deal with a good southpaw?
Antes tenías problemas con los izquierdos. ¿Qué hiciste para cambiar tu estilo que hoy no tienes problema con ellos?
Bueno, estuvimos haciendo un trabajo muy fuerte. Gracias a Dios nos ayudó la pelea que hicimos con Naseem Hamed, así que ya veníamos arrastrando un trabajo con los peleadores zurdos y pues bueno, gracias a Dios todo salió bien.
We did a great job in the gym, and what helped us also, the fight with Hamed, that improved us to fight with the southpaws.
How did that improve you?
¿Cómo te ayudó esa pelea con Hamed?
Bueno, me ayudó mucho, me enseñó que sí sabía yo boxear. Bueno, y si no lo sé, más o menos lo intento y creo que vamos a empezar a hacerlo.
Well, it made me realize that I know how to box, and then that's what I'm doing now. I outboxed him, and now I am boxing these other guys.
So have you made almost a complete transformation from your earlier skills as a brawler into becoming now a boxer puncher?
Ha hecho tú una transformación, un cambio, como eres tú, bien agresivo, aguerrido, ahora un boxeador más fino.
Bueno, lo que pasa es que comentaba con el señor Ricardo Maldonado, me decía, el boxeador que boxea y recibe menos golpes dura más años en el boxeo y esperemos que tú boxeando podamos seguir trabajando 10 años más.
Yeah, just like my manager, Ricardo Maldonado, has said, the fighter that boxes get hits less. So if I box and get hit less, I'll be around for another 10 years.
Well, that would be good for all of us. Now let's take a look at the future. Is your next fight going to be the rematch with Morales, or do you want to fight another fight before that?
Si tú estás por ahí 10 años más, va a ser bueno para todos nosotros, pero vamos a mirar el futuro ahora. ¿Qué es lo que tú quieres hacer? ¿Una revancha con Morales o con quién más quieres pelear?
Bueno, la verdad yo siempre he peleado con los que la gente me dice y el señor Ricardo es el que ahorita pues sí tendría la última palabra.
I fight anybody who's around. Ricardo Maldonado guides my career, and whoever he puts in front of me, that's who I'll fight.
We know that. Do you want to fight the rematch with Morales, which we understand might take place next April or May?
Nosotros sabemos que él es que maneja tu carrera, pero ¿con quién tú quieres pelear? ¿Quieres tú la revancha con Morales que se puede hacer el próximo mayo?
Bueno, a mí me encantaría no pensar que sería la revancha, sino como darle un regalo a toda la gente, a todos los televidentes que les gusta el boxeo y solo por ellos la pelearía y bueno, ahí ya no diríamos la frase que le dijimos a HBO cuando yo peleé con él.
Yes, a rematch would be an ideal, and I'm not going to consider it a rematch. I'm going to consider it a gift to the boxing public because actually I believe I won that fight, and I'm going to change that phase that I made that one time, a comment about HBO. It wasn't as good as you thought he was.
All right, well then, if we think you're better than we thought you were before, describe what happened in the 2 knockdowns as we show them on our monitor.
Descríbenos lo que pasó en los 2 knockdowns mientras lo están mirando en el monitor.
Bueno, ahí fue donde estábamos esperando su derecha y lo golpeamos como trabajamos en las manoplas.
That was a counter right hand as we practice in the gym.
Mi entrenador Sendai Tanaka es el que lleva esa labor, con él estuve entrenando todo el tiempo.
So you're becoming more of a counterpuncher.
Ahora vas a ser un counterpuncher hoy en día.
Pues es lo que vamos a intentar hacer, estamos poniendo muchas ganas y pues se ve que todo está saliendo bien.
Yeah, I am becoming more of a counterpuncher. That's what we're going to do. And you see.
All right, now in the 4th round, describe what happened here. It seemed that he had a delayed reaction to that left hand.
Descríbenos lo que pasó porque parece que tuvo una reacción dilatada cuando le pegaste.
Sí, yo le di el golpe, entonces él agarró como que se quedó parando. Yo lo que dije pues sí sobre él como todo mexicano.
Yeah, yes, it was a reaction. I hit him, he stood still, but you know he knows that like a true Mexican, we both were fantastic.
Thank you very much for another great performance, and we hope to see you again soon, Marco Antonio. And just one word to you, Jim. We understand from the corner of Enrique Sanchez that he may have suffered a busted eardrum earlier in the fight.